Welcome to the Edge of Greatness podcast.
How do they have that confidence to go in and compete when they're not feeling great? That's the question that I'm kind of flirting with right now with a lot of my young athletes that I work with. They're like, well, I don't feel very good today. And I'm like, well, do you want to just go home? Like, like, what do we're here to play a game. So what's the other option here? So I'm curious what you do to help them kind of navigate that not feeling well and still going out there and giving their best and seeing what happens.
I ask them, what else can you ask for somebody?
Okay.
And they say, well, I gave it my best and I tried, and it's not like I didn't prepare. Okay, then regardless of what the outcome is, if you put yourself out there and you show up and you're courageous and you're vulnerable, like that's what it's all about. I understand you want to feel 100% confident 100% of the time, but again, that's where I come back, Charles, to this idea of embracing, the nuances and the uncertainty about being an athlete and being a competitor and performer. That, we see highlighted folks, Channing Tatum, on the television. There's no way that guy's 100% confident 100% of the time, but he shows up anyway. And honestly, he's largely successful, air quotes for everyone who can see me through the podcast. It's just more so about engaging with them and understanding that good is good enough.
Yeah.
You can want to get better while at the same time knowing that you're good enough as you are.
Right.
So you can get better at something without being bad. And it's this non-dichotomous and non-polarized concept that I work with them on. So it's about embracing the difficult situations, and again, coming back to that nasty acronym for them in moments where they feel like it would be beneficial, always staying in tune with what's going on for them, but saying like, okay, I have 40% today. I'm just going to give it all of what I have today. And, I did everything that I could beforehand, and I'm going to stay true to that. I'm going to trust that. And even if I don't, quote unquote, feel good, I'm going to give it my go.
Right. It sounds like it circles back to the idea behind just give your effort, do the effort part, and let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, I think it's a process thing.
Yeah.
Right. If you're able to, I was working with one client recently, and what we decided to do is implement a post-game journal. And at the end of his games, he writes down what went really well, something that he feels like allowed him to perform well, something that he's working on, and how he's going to work on it. So from the latter two, when he pulls something that he wants to work on and how he's going to work on that, he adds that to his whiteboard of things that he does during the week to be prepared. And he knows, if I do all of these things to prepare and I've had success and I'm playing at this level, I'm competent and I'm prepared. Whatever my mind is telling me, like, you're not feeling 100%, you've done it. And now you're just doing the vulnerable part. You're showing up. And again, your effort. You nailed it.
Yeah, no, I like the post game journaling stuff, because I actually had a conversation the other day with one of the athletes that comes into my facility to train. He's about to head off to Western Michigan to play football. And I said, I want you to write down all the positive things that could happen during your time there. And then afterwards, what I want you to do is write down all the obstacles that could potentially come up for each of those positive things.
Mm-hmm.
And then think about what you'll do to overcome those obstacles. Because I find that if we only focus on the positives after everything we do, we don't set ourselves up to overcome the difficulties when they arise. Would you agree that there's value in doing both, where you have the positive and then you also don't necessarily harp on the negatives, but you look at them as a problem to solve instead of it just being a failure in your game?
What you're describing is it just totally becomes something that's productive for the person, right? So thinking that it's going to be rainbows and unicorns, that there's going to be no obstacles along the way, is unrealistic. And it's that if S hits the fan when it comes to X, Y, or Z, I'm going to have a plan in mind so that I can work through that. I don't even view that as necessarily negative, but it's just simply what will be helpful for you in these moments should they arise. If they don't, great. Proceed. Keep going.
Right.
But if they do, Now you're prepared. Post-game reflection, I think getting feedback and building on that, that's not a negative experience. I think the negative experience is what you described of like, I'm going to just go into self-destructive mode and, beat myself up. I think that's where negative becomes so obviously negative and counterproductive. But I often just come back to the words of productive, counterproductive, what's helpful, what's hurtful, because so often we fall victim to what you described of, I need to do something positive. I need to talk to myself positively without even recognizing if you're someone who actually would benefit more from something a little bit more stern. So I think it just comes back to that awareness piece and understanding what's going to be helpful for me in this moment.
Thank you for joining us today on the Edge of Greatness podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and join us again next time as we continue to dig deeper into the key components of greatness. The path to greatness is never linear, so remember to keep pursuing greatness no matter what. Keep stretching your abilities, reach for the stars, and fall flat on your face. But no matter what happens, remember, whenever we fall, always get up. Until next time, I'm Charles Schultz, and this was the Edge of Greatness podcast.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Please take a moment now to subscribe, rate, and review our show. We are all on the edge of greatness.